皆さんこんにちは。第46回東京モーターショー2019フューチャーエキスポ e モータースポーツステージにお越しいただき誠にありがとうございます。 これより e モータースポーツ都道府県対抗アンダー18全日本選手権を開催いたします。各都道府県を代表する若きトップドライバーたちが日本一を目指して争います。そしてこの模様は YouTube、Facebook、日英2カ国同時配信されます。
Welcome to the Under-18 Interprefecture Japan Championship. We are broadcasting straight from the Mega Web with 2 different languages, so I hope you guys enjoy it on Facebook and YouTube.
申し遅れましたが、本日総合司会務めさせていただきます平岩康介と
伊沢由美です。
よろしくお願いいたします。さあ、これから行われるのは各都道府県のトップ選手の中からさらに本日この直前に行われましたセミファイナルを勝ち上がった12名のドライバーたちによるファイナルレースの模様をお届けしてまいります。
はい、もうセミファイナル熱き戦いも先ほどバチバチと繰り広げられてたので、これからが楽しみです。
先日の国体でも活躍したドライバーの中からさらにという精鋭の精鋭が集まって日本一を決めていただくというような戦いになります。さあ、これからそんな若きドライバーたちの戦い楽しみなんですが、その前にスペシャルなゲストをお呼びしております。ご紹介したいと思います。この方々です。まずは FIA グランツーリスモチャンピオンシップ2018ワールドファイナルネーションズカップ初代チャンピオンブラジルイゴール・フラガ選手です。グランツーリスモシリーズプロデューサーポリフォニーデジタル代表取締役プレジデント山内和則さんです。
Hello everyone.
スペシャル対談未来の EMS 対談をしていただこうと思います。それではお二人よろしくお願いいたします。
はい、よろしくお願いいたします。今日はですね、
So today,
ご存知のと言って構わない
I
と思い
think
ます。
you know very well, we have with us the world champion of the Nations Cup from last year's FIA Gran Turismo Championships. And also, you've won 4 wins in the European Formula races. We have Igor Fraga, competitor of the Gran Turismo FIA Championships. And titled From Igor to You, we have all these competitors who are under 18 from around Japan. I think the background story of Igor, his life, I think will be a great guide to young people from all over Japan. So I'd like to explain his story to you. In 1998, he was born in Kanazawa of the Ishikawa Prefecture. In the previous year, his father had traveled from Brazil to Japan and started working here, and he was born here in Japan. So this is a very nostalgic photo for me, and it really makes me happy that I was born here. In my life, having been part of the culture of Japan, it really helped me in life, and I feel that even now. Whenever I speak to Igor, Igor is more Japanese than Japanese people sometimes. You can tell that his soul really has a Japanese part to it. In 2001, when he was 3, his father bought Gran Turismo for Igor. Yes, so from when I was very little, I really liked cars. So my father also was a fan of cars, and he carried it on from his grandfather. And so there was a wish by the whole family to really get into the real world of cars as well. And he bought me a steering wheel controller, and that's where it all started. So starting kart, at the time, that probably means that your father was doing fairly well in Japan. Yes, so when he was living in Japan for 20 years, at the time, I think he was already working in Japan for 10 years, and you know, and motorsports in Japan, you know, when you start at a very young age, you know, it's a lot more accessible. So, I was able to, get involved in it as well. In 2004, this is the Igor's karting days. And what was it like for you back then? I think this was when I was having the most fun. But living in Ishikawa, I used to travel to either Shiga or Kansai area of Japan, and that was a lot of traveling. But I made a lot of friends through karting, and I spent a lot of this precious time with my family, and plus I was able to do something that I really love to do, to drive. So it was this time in Asia was a time where I was really enjoying myself, and it was also when I had the most amount of racing experience, karting. And even today, I'm able to race with people in Japan, and it's fantastic. Makino's, who's a works driver for Honda now, Igor actually beat him back then in karting. Yes. So yes, at the time I had beat him, and Kotaka-san, like in F3, Sakaguchi, Senna. I was racing with guys like that back then. And I just met Sakaguchi-san just a few minutes ago, and we're talking to each other. And it's been a long time since we've seen each other like this. But in 2009, there was the collapse of the a financial crisis in the world when the Lehman Corporation had the collapse, and all the sponsors that had funded Igor in his racing activities at the time started to cut their funding. Yeah, it was actually at a time, in 2008, I was the Asian, regional champion, and I was at the top of my, karting career. But after this Lehman shock, as it's called in Japan, I was no longer able to race anymore. So you went all the way to the top of Asia, and you weren't able to continue anymore. So in 2010, Igor's father, decided that there was no more work for him in Japan. So he decided that the family would move, back to Brazil. So yeah, at the age of 11 or going on to 12, Igor had just graduated elementary school. You didn't speak Brazilian then, so Portuguese I was able to to understand and speak Portuguese, but obviously the culture is very different, and I didn't know how to read and write very well, so it was very hard. And my one of the parents of my elementary school friends was actually here, and he had brought my graduation album. Yeah, so it's a Kanazawa City Elementary School. It's a Kanazawa City Miwa Elementary School, and he brought me this this album. So in 2008, we had the GT Academy at the time, turning gaming drivers into real drivers. And in GT5, you learned how to speak English. Yeah, so through GT Academy, and people racing all over the world online, I made friends all over the world, and it really helped to improve my English. So 2014, after a 5-year hiatus from racing, you came back to racing. Yes, so I was finally able to return to racing, but even before that though, I wasn't able to race, but I kept practicing. And if there was any chance that I could return to racing, I made sure that I could get right back into it. And in 2014, I was able to start getting into racing again. So even when you're at the bottom of your career, so to speak, you still made the effort to practice. In your life, you have your ups and downs, but when you're in a good place in life, you have to be prepared for that, to take all those opportunities that arises when you're at the top of your luck. So I keep making the efforts even when things were down, to be ready. In 2015, third place in the Brazilian F3, so it looks like a good result, but in actuality, it wasn't a good time. Yes, because at the time, we didn't have a lot of funding for the car, so we had a lot of mechanical issues. There were times where we couldn't get brand new tires on the car, so we were able to make third, but I was very frustrated at the time. Because I really felt that motorsports was an unfair sport because it took so much money to get involved. In 2017, you finally became the Brazilian F3 champion, and this wasn't an easy victory for you either. Yes, even here, we had a lot of mechanical issues, and in the previous year, we couldn't get enough funding, and we could only participate in the first and last race in the season. So, in all sorts of different aspects, it was rough, but I was able to become champion this year. In 2018, he participated in the FIA-4 in the NACAM, and then he also got fourth place in the USF 2000. This was a rough year for you as well. Yes, for me it was a rough year for me. I only had like a third of the budget that you would need to participate in a series like this, but the mechanic that used to work with us really supported us. My father, we didn't even at one point we didn't even have a place to live, and we were living out of vans and cars for a while. In 2018 was another rough year for you. I mean, your parents had sold the house, you sold off your car. So yes, in Brazil, it's just my grandmother's house now, but my entire family supported me, which got me to where I am, and so I'm really grateful to my family. And then 2018, he competed in the FIA GT championships, and at the time, I was also participating in real racing, and I didn't have a steering wheel controller in the beginning, so I had a gamepad, and when I got to a point where I couldn't do any more with a pad controller, I bought the cheapest steering controller I could afford at the time, and got in it. But it's for me, it was not about giving up because because something's not available to you, but it was more about doing the best with what you have.
2019
So
年
2019, so this year, you've moved to Europe. You've started competing in the Formula Regional Europe. You've got 11 podium, 4 wins, 4 pole positions. That was incredible. It was a very small team in Italy that I competed with. But being able to fight on the same level with the big teams out there, I think overall, of course, there are some places where I think or unfortunately we could have better, but being able to produce these results, I think is something to be very happy about, and I think I want to keep trying. So And this is a message from Igor to you all out there. So never giving up on your dreams is really, really important. And I think everyone here, I think everyone has a dream of some sort, and in your life, of course there are bad times, there are good times, but if you don't give up and if you keep trying, something will come from it. So you have to continue to make that effort even when you're down. Yeah. So thank you very much, Igor Fraga.
本当にありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。
皆さん今一度大きな拍手をお送りください。さあお二人の貴重なお話もありまして、いよいよ都道府県対抗アンダー18全日本選手権ファイナルレースの開幕です。今大会は先日茨城県で行われましたいきいき茨城夢国体文化プログラム全国都道府県対抗 e スポーツ選手権2019茨城グランツーリスモスポーツ少年の部に出場した選手の中から都道府県代表決定戦茨城特別代表予選において最も速かった各都道府県のトップの選手を代表選手として選出しています。さらに本日その中から午前中セミファイナルが行われ突破した精鋭12名による真の日本一を決めるファイナルレースを行うというような戦いになっております。さあということで今回のレース大会のトーナメントストラクチャーエイミーさんお願いします。
はい。各都道府県か
So
ら
good morning, welcome to the Under-18s race here for the Regional Championship, the All Japan Under-18 Regional Championship. My name's Tom Brooks, alongside me Jimmy Broadbent here to guide you through the action today. Jimmy, this is going to be pretty exciting as we were just finding out with that brief highlights clip, all of these drivers having competed very, very recently in this Under-18s Regional Championship at an event a few weeks ago. That is where they've qualified, and here today we've got the final race.
Yeah, great to see the next generation of GT players coming through, of course. It may be next year that we're commentating on these guys in the Nations Cup and a Manufacturer Series. Watching them practice earlier on, the pace is exactly the same, just a bit younger, of course. They're not allowed to take part in the competition, but here, of course, we get a bit of a sneak peek of that. So looking forward to seeing what they can offer us.
Yep, absolutely right. You can see the drivers then just sat down there on the stage area at the moment. We've got our two hosts up on stage as they get ready to welcome up the drivers into the area then, and we'll have them making their way up and getting ready to get this race underway. We'll guide you through a little bit more about it, who is going to be lining up where the circuit they're going to be racing in on rather, and under what conditions here in Tokyo as well. So first welcoming up the first driver. There is Mr. Suzuki. He starts the race from pole position. In second place, it's Ryu. He is in the second pod, rather, I should say, the second gaming rig. Then Hashimoto. He's in the third rig. Lines up actually fifth on the grid for this race. Nakamura, he is in P4, in the fourth rig here in Tokyo. Koki Mizuno, he was actually fastest in the event here in Japan a few weeks ago. Lines up in the fifth rig. Ichi is in the sixth rig. Tomoya Ichi, as you can see there, ready to line up in position. Sasaki-san, Yuto Sasaki, playing up to camera there. Nicely done there from Yutio. Goodness me. Then Goto is in the eighth rig. Kakuma is in the ninth rig, and he's playing up to camera. These boys are prepped and ready, aren't they?
They've been practicing, bless them.
Minoa, he is in the 10th rig. And then we've got the final two rigs. Shimada. Big round of applause for Shimada there in the 11th rig. And Nankai there in the 12th and final rig. Doesn't reflect where they have qualified. We'll guide you through the grid for that one here in a few moments' time. But there are our under-18 competitors here for the regional championship, the All Japan Under-18 Regional Championship here in Tokyo as part of the Tokyo Motor Show. Big round of applause for all the competitors up there on stage. It's going to be pretty exciting, this one. And as I said, we'll guide you through the competition format here in just a couple of moments' time. The Japanese national anthem plays out then here in Tokyo ahead of the All Japan Under-18 regional race that is ready to get under the way very shortly indeed. There are all of our competitors, as you can see, lined up and ready to make their way onto the rigs.
Under-18 Interprefecture Japan Championship. Let the final begin.
So then it is time for the championship to begin. Here are our Japanese commentators, along with Kiichi Tsuchiya, who is also there in the middle.
Living legend, Osu Chiya, of course, a very famous racing driver here in Japan, and personal idol of mine. Great to see him here, and I'm going to try and work up the courage to say hello this time, I think.
Fantastic. You can see him there, sat in the middle of Yamada-san on the left-hand side, Nakajima-san on the right. And the drivers now just making their way then over to their rigs, as we can see from our commentary position. And so we'll guide you through the race format, who is lining up where on the grid in just a couple of moments' time here in Tokyo. A bit of an unknown, this one, Jimmy, and interestingly, different from the Manufacturer Series, the Nations Cup, of course. Drivers, some of them using the wheels, others opting to use gamepads instead.
Yeah, that option is allowed here. Not so much, of course, in our Nations and Manufacturer Cup races, but it does mean it opens up to more people, I suppose. And I was watching someone drive earlier on. It's quite odd because they've got the wheel in front of them with all the flashing lights for the rev counter and all that, but they're using the gamepad. I'm not quite sure how they get their mind around that, but they do fairly well, it seems. And something else to note as well is that the drivers have free range when it comes to choosing their car. It's a Group 3 car for this race, but it's free range. So we've seen a lot of Lamborghinis. The Huracan seems to be the car of choice around here.
Yeah, they seem to be a big fan of them for one reason or another, don't they? And, well, they are very nice cars to look at. Not necessarily the quickest ones that we've seen in GT Sport in the Group 3 class, at least in the Manufacturer Series and indeed the Nations Cup. But the drivers here in the Under-18s All Japan regional race quite enjoying those machines. So it's going to be exciting to see how they all find out how they get on here at the Fuji International Speedway. That is the circuit these drivers are going to be competing on. Interestingly here, Jimmy, a bit of strategy to think about in this one as well. They've got a couple of different compounds of tyres, racing hard and mediums, and they must use each tyre compound in the race. So a lot for these boys to think about.
Again, quite similar to the format we have in the Manufacturer Series and the Nations Cup Series. It's changed a bit now, of course, but got to make sure to use those tyres at least once. So what we'll probably see is a racing hard tyre used very briefly, and then the medium tyre be used, well, as quick as it can be. Anyway, you're seeing on your screen right now the qualifying result. You see Suzuki leading the field on a 1:38.5. I watched that session earlier on. He was the last driver to cross the line to get that time. Interestingly, second and third separated by 1/1000th of a second. It's pretty close between these guys.
Yeah, that's saying it very lightly, isn't it? Mizuno there in third, then Ryu in fourth, Hashimoto, Sasaki, Manoa, Ichi, Shimada, Kakuma, Goto, and Nankai, rather, I should say, it down in 12th position. So those are our 12 drivers ready to take to the grid for the All Japan Under-18 regional race here in Tokyo as part of the Tokyo Motor Show. And the drivers just getting their last little bits of practice in, as we can see from our commentary position, ready to get this race underway. It's a 10-lapper for them, 2 times fuel consumption, 2 times tyre wear as well. Crucially, a rolling start here, which should make life a little bit easier for these drivers.
We say easier, we're still driving a Fuji, so first corner's a hairpin, which is always entertaining, and because you see the first corner yeet, as we like to call it, people will try and go up the inside, send it up the inside, get a position or two at the start, but maybe we'll see a bit of an experience. You know, it's like the under-18s. Usually they're pretty quick, but it's a bit of a different environment here. We say it's the same thing for the guys in the Manufacturers of the Nations Cup series. You turn around and you have a crowd of, I mean, easily 300 people there, just watching on behind, maybe 400 people up in the mezzanine as well. And this is a completely different experience for these guys as from driving at home. So I wonder if that will take effect at all.
Yeah, certainly an added element of pressure, isn't there? That is for sure. You can just see from our commentary position, drivers, as we said, just getting these cars acquainted with Group 3 machinery as well. It's not the easiest machinery to be driving, so just something that is worth bearing in mind here as well. But let's take an overview of the circuit then. The Fuji International Speedway, located, of course, in Japan, right next to Mount Fuji. You could see it in the distance as well. Hugely popular circuit amongst drivers, 4.5 kilometres long, 3 sectors makes it up, relatively fast and flowing in that first corner but for the hairpin. Then it's all about medium speed corners, 100R through there. It begins to slow down, especially though in that final sector, a bit Mickey Mouse through there.
Yeah, me and that final sector are not friends, I must say. It's a very tricky one. Of course, the old school circuit used to just be one long right-hander through there, which was a killer for tyres, but it was revamped, of course, not so long ago to try and promote overtaking, and it does that as well, but very hard to get through that last sector, especially if you are not familiar with how the car will handle in these tightening corners. So as you can see, 10th lap race, just under 50 k's in length. The race, racing hard and racing mediums being used with tyre wear set at time 6, I always like to say it. That means 1 lap on the tyre equals 6 laps worth of tyre wear. As you can see, we've got predictive strategies right here. We think people are not going to use the racing hard that much, try and get on the medium as much as they can. Because as you can see, the racing hard tyre is nearly a second a lap slower than the medium, so it's not really worth being on it if you can deal with the tyre wear.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how it all plays out. As you said, Jimmy, crucial to use the medium tyres as much as they can. And tyre speed change about 2 seconds then.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, I'm glad they finally worked out that people like to try and stay on the softer compound of the tyre. Because usually they were saying, oh yeah, they'll do 7 laps in the racing hard. No, they won't. Of course they won't. They'll go out there and try and use the quick one as much as they can. Of course, the Michelin tyres as well. Great to have them as a partner of this event. And back to Tsuchiya in the centre there. Tsuchiya, of course, driven here many times over the course of his career in Super GT and in touring cars, etc. So he knows the circuit very well. I'm sure he'll be schooling our commentators. Although Nakajima-san also very experienced, so there will be, I think, a battle of information there. I think.
There you can see the drivers and the final confirmation of the starting grid on your right-hand side of your screen as things stand at the moment. Drivers just getting, as we said, those last little bits of practice in then here at the Fuji International Speedway. The racing hard tyre about 0.9 of a second slower over the course of a lap compared to the racing medium tyre. So just worth bearing that in mind, of course. Want to get on those medium tyres as soon as possible, but not take too much tyre life out of them. As you said, Jimmy, 2 times fuel consumption, 6 times tyre wear, so it's definitely going to be an important factor to see how it all plays out with these guys.
Yeah, definitely. Car will feel different lap to lap, which is the important thing. But that's the great thing about sim racing and esports in general, is that we can change those conditions and make it more interesting for the viewer and for the driver. It's a thing you can't do in real life. You can't say, you know what, go out there with 6 times tyre wear in your tyre. It doesn't work like that. So you get a bit of information there about Koki Miyazono. His motto, got to be in it to win it. I mean, fair enough. I mean, he's in it. He's up there right now, so we'll see how he does. But I think also not going off a T1 would be a good strategy as well.
Well, Mizuno was the fastest driver, as we said, from the competition these guys had a few weeks ago. There is Shituro Ryu from Fukuoka in Japan, so that's about an hour and a half flight away from here in Tokyo. It'll be interesting to see how Ryu gets on over the course of this one. Then you can see some of the drivers there opting to use the gamepads with the motion control, others using the steering wheels that we've got here.
Have you tried that? Have you tried the motion control?
I've not tried it personally, no.
I used to be a gamepad on the Gran back in the day, and I used to really enjoy using the analog sticks, so it's really good. But I found that actually the motion controls are a bit of an improvement. You can be a lot more precise with where the steering is, so interesting to see it used in the competition here. Anyway, I think we're about ready to get into the race. Round of applause from our Japanese audience. Let's get into it.
The All Japan Under-18s esports final then, the regional championship ready to get underway. The grid of Group 3 machines is all lined up and we'll guide you through who is in what position right here and right now. You can see the Lamborghini Huracans on the front row of the grid. Suzuki from Fukushima starts on pole position. Alongside him on the front row is Nakamura from Chiba. the second row of the grid, we see our first 4GT of Mizuno, the fastest man from the event we had a few weeks ago here in Japan. Then Ryu in fourth place. We were looking at him just a couple of moments ago. From Fukuoka he is. Third row of the grid, Hashimoto in P5 in the Volkswagen GCI Vision Gran Turismo Group 3 car. Sasaki there in sixth position. The next row of the grid is Manoa down in seventh place on the grid. Alongside him is Ichi from Toyama in the Lamborghini Huracan there as well. Ninth position, Shimada. And alongside Shimada towards the back of the grid is Kakuma, also in the Volkswagen Vision Gran Turismo car. And the last row of the grid is Goto in the 4GT from Miyazaki. And alongside him is Nankai from Kochi here in Japan. He is in the 4GT in a very similar livery to the golf car that we're used to seeing, which is quite a nice little replica.
Oh, man. Me and golf liveries don't get on. They're only allowed in certain cars in my mind. Unfortunately, the new GT is not one of them. Anyway, it's a short run to the line here. As Tom said earlier on, it's a rolling start here, so it should be nice and easy down the T1. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen there the tyre compounds our drivers have chosen. Top three drivers choosing to go onto the fast tyre at the start of the race to try and make a little bit of a gap, whereas those at the back may be anticipating a bit of a fight through the fields, not wanting to burn their soft tyre early on. Coming down to start the race here for our first race of the day in the Under-18 series.
The All Japan Under-18 Regional Championship final race then about to get underway here at the Fuji International Speedway. Who will lead the way after the first corner? Crucially, who will lead the way over the line after 10 laps of racing and those pit stops to take into account? The top three drivers, as you can see, all starting on the medium tyres, so they want to do a long stint first off, get themselves onto the hard tyres for as least amount of time possible. But the Under-18 All Japan Regional Championship is underway here in Tokyo. They all darted to the slipstream down to the first corner. You can see Suzuki going for the inside line there, meaning that Nakamura is going to have to go for the outside line if he tries to challenge down in towards turn one. Keep an eye out for it all kicking off further back as well, because look at Mizuno there. And here we go down to the first turn. Nakamura goes for the move, but he runs it too hot into turn one. Suzuki goes through, and the retaining fielders, Hashimoto comes past Minoa up into third place here at the end of the first corner. But Suzuki there kept his calm, kept his head, whilst we saw drama there for Nakamura, and he went from the race lead down into about fifth position after that at the first corner.
Yeah, very tricky one. Fuji, of course, tightens up very quickly through the first corner. Ryu had a good start as well on the hard compounder tyre, but then very quickly went a bit too quick in the T1, went a bit wide, got mugged a little bit, and now it's down to fourth place. So it's Suzuki leading Hashimoto, leading Manoa for 1, 2, 3 at the moment. Interesting to see the VW getting some use there, the drop top there, some wind in your hair when you're driving around here at Fuji. We're around now to the second big overtaking zone on the circuit. Will we see Manoa try and move? No, he tucks back in behind Hashimoto. A little bit of action going on behind. We can't quite catch it on our camera right now as we come into sector 3 for the first time. As we say through here, bit Mickey Mouse, not really a good place to overtake. And here is a replay of T1, Tom.
Yeah, first corner, you can see Nakamura, they go for the outside line, but he just is way too late on the brakes. Inside there for Ryu, bit of contact with Mizuno at the first turn. That shuffles him there wide. There's all a bit of drama going on further back as they're going and bunching up through that corner. Everybody making it through, facing the right way, crucially here. But look at Hashimoto's looking very aggressive here now on the back of Suzuki. This is for the race lead. You can see an incident under investigation between Hashimoto, Ryu and Mizuno there. So keep an eye on that and see if any penalties are issued between these drivers. But now, crucially here, Jimmy, is the first real chance to overtake with that slipstream on the start-finish straight.
Yeah, Suzuki there coming down the front straight. You see just giving a little bit of room to Hashimoto on the inside, trying to squeeze him as much as he can towards the apex of the corner. Realises that he's got the run, then goes to the outside to try and get the best run possible for T1. But Minoa in the background takes advantage of this. He's now right on with the two leaders, but Suzuki pushed out wide there and down to second. Hashimoto taking the lead, but it's not over yet. Ducks back into the slipstream, coming up to the kink. Very fast left-hander. It's very easy to get a cut track warning if you get a bit too aggressive on the inside curve there, but these guys know what they're doing. Now coming through to 100R. So change the lead there, so our gamepad driver goes down to second, where Hashimoto goes up to first. See, a bit of a lean on through there. I wonder if that helps.
Possibly. Top six drivers, you can see, having broken away quite significantly from Sasaki down in P7. No further action for that incident between Hashimoto, Ryu and Mizuno there. So that is good to see for those drivers. Nobody deemed to be at fault, just a racing incident down at turn one. But coming down in towards this right-hander is where we're going to see the moves being made. Look at Suzuki go for the outside line. He gets shoved onto the grass. He's going to slide it through there. He's off off on there, and he's going to lose track position down into P6 for Suzuki from the top echelons of this race. So that is disappointment there for Suzuki. He was running really well, just got shuffled out wide there by Hashimoto. I wonder if we might see the stewards having another look at that.
We'll see there. I think that was just 2 into 1, that situation. He did very well not to keep that car from spinning there, especially in the grass. I think the replay of it right now. So we're on board with Suzuki. He goes left-hand side of the circuit. I don't think Hashimoto knows he's there. Yeah, at that point, yeah, I think that's just a race against Suzuki getting a bit too enthusiastic into there and just spins the car into a half spin. Meanwhile, I wanted to mention just Ryu on the hard compound tyre running in 3rd place. He's in the best spot right now in that 4GT, and as we say there, he is on the screen right now, defending 4th from Miyazono behind. Doesn't need to be too aggressive right now. Interestingly, Hashimoto giving a penalty there. I've got to say I disagree with that, but stewards think otherwise.
Yeah, deemed to have moved probably under braking. It was their take on that. Looking at from the onboard view of Suzuki, it was a bit interesting. There's Mizuno up the inside of Ryu for 3rd position then, so through goes the blue 4GT on the red machine, up into P3. Flash of the lights there from Manoa in P2. There's your race leader Hashimoto with that penalty, as we've seen following that incident with Suzuki on that last lap. So he will serve that coming out of the final corner and onto the start-finish straight, which is the one place you don't want a penalty because it's where you're going to lose all the time. And in theory, a lot of positions given how bunched up this field is. Here's Nakamura down the inside. That's a brave move into the left-hander. Side by side they come against Ryu, and Nakamura makes ground. He goes through, he's up into P4, so that is really good to see there for Nakamura. He was challenging for the lead on the opening lap, and he's now fighting his way back through into P4, but it's not over yet because Ryu has a sneaky look, but just sensibly ducks back in behind him there, doesn't launch a move into that right-hander.
Yeah, great move from Nakamura. Set that up really early coming out of 100R. You have to really make sure you know where the car is going to go on the exit. He got that done just right. There is one saving grace for Hashimoto though. Well, so there may have been. He may opt to pit in now, but I wouldn't do that in the medium compound tyre. Just keep out for now and keep going. But as you said, Tom, he's going to lose a 2nd, which is probably going to see him demoted down to about 5th or 6th place coming out of it, just because of how bad it affects the run down to T1. So here we go. There's the slowing down marker filling up now. Of course, it's the boards. There they are, and then you got off the throttle for a full 2nd, and you're seeing now the difference. Oh wow! And Miyazono is forced to go round the outside there. They both split him going up down to T1, and now we have a fight down to T1 between Miyazono and Manoa. Miyazono has the legs in the 4GT, squeezing the VW to the inside there. They're literally rubbing door handles now coming down to T1. Miyazono has the right line though, tries to brake a little bit late, but oh my word, and there's a little bit of contact between the two, but Miyazono just about manages to wrestle that 4GT round T1 and takes the lead. Great move.
All of the hard tyre drivers, aside from Ryu, coming into the pit lane, then trying to get off that hard compound, got onto the medium compound of tyres here. Here we can see Nakamura getting a bit sideways there, trying to challenge Manoa. That move down in towards that first corner, following that penalty that we saw there for Hashimoto. Bit sideways there for Nakamura as well. It was real sort of reminiscent of Hakkinen versus Zonta and Schumacher at Spa in 2000. The two drivers splitting the car that was going slower, and that was fantastic. Great opportunist driving from all of those. Great reactions there to spot the slowing car there as well. There is Nakamura. We saw him just getting a bit sideways and struggling here, and he's going to have to be a bit careful of this on the medium compound of tyre, Jimmy, because of course everybody else is in the same boat at this point, and if he's got less tyre life towards the end of his stint, it could compromise him slightly.
Yeah, that Lamborghini is very tail happy, it seems. And again, on the way into the right hand there, all sorts of sideways. It's just going to be burning through the rear tyres doing that. And then Hashimoto sees his opportunity to go through on Nakamura up the inside there, but gets it wrong on exit, a little bit sideways. Now Nakamura now has the inside for this last corner, and Hashimoto turns in like Nakamura is not there, bangs off the door handle there, and loses a bit of momentum, but I think realistically he wasn't going to get past there, and the positions stay as they were. Now the long drag down to T1, and Ryu there pitting in at the end of lap 4. We expect that last lap, to be honest, but to stay up there in 5th place, it's very impressive, and he uses the wall a little bit on the way in there. That's a very interesting strat. I wonder what Tsuchiya makes of that. Probably not what he did back in the days in Super GT, but Ryu is looking really strong right now, managing to stay in the top 6 quite easily, and now going on to the fast compound tyre.
Yeah, that's going to be the closing stages then of this race. You can see also into the pit lane there, a couple of the medium compound, the hard compound runners there. Kakuma coming off of the hard tyre onto the medium compound of tyres as well, so he wants the quicker compound. It's about 0.9 of a second on average, a lap faster. There's Ryu. The good thing is here, he's got a bit of clear track to try and make some ground now on this fresher compound of medium tyres, Jimmy. Of course, he's going to be on the quicker compound at the end of this race. Everybody else, in theory, around him will be slower, so if he can put in a good couple of laps before everybody changes over to those hard compound of tyres, it could be in for a good shout here, but he's got a good amount of time to make up of 11 seconds to Suzuki in P5 at the moment.
Yeah, a bit of an uphill battle, but I'm sure he'll get there. Of course, a lot of these guys, all these guys are very talented. You have to be here. It's great to see, again, GT supporting these under-18s here in this series. Again, the next generation of GT drivers we're seeing, so I'm very sure that in the next couple of years we'll be seeing these names in the Gran Turismo events, no doubt about it. But anyway, we'll go back to this race right now. Miyazono is leading at the moment, and you're seeing, well, you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, the P column there, is how many pit stops our drivers have made so far. Interestingly, as Tom points out there, Kakamura made 2. Interesting strat. I don't think it's going to work out for him.
Well, no, what he's done there effectively is he's gone, because there's no minimum time they can drive on it. He's gone from the medium tyres to the hard compounds for one lap, and then back onto the mediums for the closing stages. It's an interesting strategy call, that, but I can't see it working out.
Well, he's 5 seconds back.
Yes, quite.
That shows how that's going for him. Anyway, meanwhile, we're on board with Nakamura now. You're seeing the draft and what effect that has coming down the T1. And not quite gaining the way I thought it would be there. And now very late on the brakes, see the inputs in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Almost try and aim for that bollard on the inside and let the car run wide, coming up to the little kinks. They're really fun corners left-hander, but also at the same time, it can really be quite frustrating. If you take a bit too much of the curb on the inside, you get a slap from the in-game penalty system, which I've had all too many times. It's very painful.
Ask Super GT about that one. He's had a few as well, let's be fair.
Yeah.
There is Suzuki looking at him in P4 at the moment. Hashimoto, your former race leader, now in P3, and really coming under a bit of pressure now from Suzuki, beginning to drop back, so perhaps his tyres just having a bit more life taken out of them. You can see quite a pronounced gap now between P1, P2 and P3. Then it closes up between P4 and P5 as things stand. P3, P4 and P5, I should say, as things stand at the moment. So it's going to be exciting to see how it all plays out, but clearly Suzuki looking the faster of the two for third position at the moment. Hashimoto, as we said, just beginning to struggle here, and all these drivers, they'll be doing one more lap on these tyres and then changing over to the hard compound for the closing stages then of this race. They've got to get 3 laps in there and thereabouts, I would imagine, on these hard compound of tyres in the closing stages, so it'll be exciting to see how it all plays out for them. There is Nakamura, just running a little bit wide through that final sector, through that left hand. It keeps it on the straight and narrow, but still very sideways. I wonder if he's thinking he's competing in the Formula Drift Championship over here instead.
I wouldn't want to drive an MR car in that, my word, but yeah, Nakamura really having trouble with those rear tyres in that Lamborghini. We see a car peeling off into the pit lane in front of him. That's Suzuki coming into the pit lane now. Maybe a lap earlier than we thought he would do. Maybe he's struggling as well on those tyres. And Nakamura thinks, you know what, I've had enough of this. He comes in as well, puts on the hard compounder tyre, and is going to try and make something of that. So Suzuki, of course, was our race leader earlier on, very temporarily, before he got shafted down towards the hairpin. We saw a penalty given to Hashimoto for that, who is currently running in third position. Round of applause there from some of the crowd. I think a fan of Suzuki maybe. I think it was just one guy clapping, bless him, but at least he's not afraid to show his affection to the Suzuki there.
There's the Suzuki now back out on the hard compound of tyres. Here's Ryu, then he's on the medium. Don't forget, of course, he has made that stop. So this has worked out quite nicely here for Ryu at the moment, because he's on the medium compound to the very end of this race, and he's not got too much of a gap to make up to Hashimoto, about 9 seconds or so. It's a couple of seconds for the tyre change, but the overall pit stop time is about 7, 8, 9 seconds there and thereabouts. So it's going to be pretty close here for P3 if Ryu can just keep that pace at a constant. Mizuno there, meanwhile, leading the way in the blue Ford GT as we see him on your screen at the moment. Now, he's going to have to surely duck and dive into the pit lane after this lap, because you can see he's really struggling with tyre life. That car understeering like a cross-channel ferry through that final sector. So it's sensible to get on a fresher compound of tyres, albeit a slower one, for these closing stages.
Can't say I've tried driving a ferry before. Maybe there's someone to do this. We'll give that a go. But yeah, Miyazono must be coming into this now. Let's see what he does with his car. Yeah, comes over to the right-hand side of the circuit, making his intentions known nice and early. He'll be coming in and putting a fresh set of the Michelin hard tyres on this Ford GT Group 3 car. And managing to avoid the wall, which is always good. Don't want to see a dent on the way in. And now we're going to get an idea of where everyone is sitting. Now, bear in mind, there are some medium runners going around. Now, let's see what Ryu does. He's been on the medium compounder tyre a bit longer, a bit on a fresher set of compound tyres. So maybe we'll see him jump into the lead. Let's see. Coming up the pit lane now, where is Ryu? There he is. He's going to come out just behind second place Miyazono, but he has jumped up into second there. So that strategy really proving to work well there for Ryu in the red Ford GT. And now it's going to be a straight fight between him and Miyazono, who is on a slower compounder tyre.
It's about 0.9 of a second quicker, as we were saying earlier on, between the two different tyre compounds here, so it's definitely worth bearing that in mind, because if he can close that gap down, Ryu, he could have pulled an absolute blinder in strategy. You can see him in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, Miyazuno there in the top left-hand corner of your screen, Ryu from Fukuoka, Mizuno from Aichi, and now it is a straight fight between the two drivers here in the under-18s All Japan Final Championship. They're bit sideways there for Ryu, but he can afford to do that at this stage. You can see Mizuno, he'll have fresher tyres underneath him, but they're going to be slower by about 9/10 of a second. So let's see what happens between these two guys as they begin to put the power down and begin to close up on one another. Now Mizuno is going to have to defend for the next 2 laps if he wants to hold on to this race victory, but he's getting tantalisingly close here in this race, and you have to say that Ryu is looking like he's pulled an absolute blinder of a strategy here, but of course he has got to find his way past, and we know how challenging that can be sometimes.
Yeah, still got to find his way by on the circuit. Both drivers in the same car, of course, so that is a bit of a constant there, but the difference is the tyre compound and the man behind the wheel, or game pads. I mean, as you see on Miyazono, here the lines differ greatly going into the last corner there. Miyazono sacrificing the entry to try and get a better exit, whereas Ryu just using the tyre and taking the shortest line for the corner possible.
Yeah, 5th place has changed hands as well, with Suzuki making his way up ahead of Hashimoto now, so clearly the quicker of the 2 drivers there. But now you can see over the timing line we go with Mizuno and Ryu. Now Ryu's in the slipstream, he's going to dart for the inside line, he's challenging for the race lead. Side by side they come, hard on the brakes into turn 1, Ryu on the inside, shuffled out wide, contact between the 2 drivers, Mizuno gets shuffled out onto the AstroTurf, but he manages to retain the lead. Ryu sensibly backed out there, knowing that he was at fault for that incident, so he's going to have to try again here on the penultimate lap to find his way past.
Yeah, a little bit of contact there, going a little bit too impatient. You can see just how much faster Ryu is at this point. He doesn't need to force the issue, though. He might be doing it through 100R, goes up the inside, uses the tyre line. Thank you very much, son, he says. Off he goes into 1st place, and now it's going to be a real challenge for Miyazono to come back, but he's going to give it a go. Dives up the inside on the hard compounded tyre, slides the car to the exit. He's really forcing him, giving him as little track as possible, and now we're going to go side by side down to the hairpin.
This is absolutely brilliant stuff. Ryu on the inside, Mizuno on the outside. Who's going to brake latest? Who's going to blink first? Mizuno on the outside line, he holds it on, but here's Ryu on the inside. This is getting very close for the race lead. Mizuno does just hold on for another day for the race lead here, but Ryu's looking up the inside line again. He needs to be patient here in this final sector. That's the crucial thing. He could stand to lose a lot more than he gains. And all the while these two are squabbling amongst one another, look who's lurking in the background. It's Manoa, and he's been closing up that gap, corner by corner, sector by sector, over these last few laps, over Mizuno and Ryu, and he could potentially have a part to play as we come onto the last lap here.
It's been some amazing defensive driving there by Mizuno, but now he's going to be, he's under threat now. The slipstream from Ryu behind. Ryu needs to now to make a third move. I think he's being a little bit too kind with Miyazono. He knows he's got the time Mizuno in front. Let's see what happens now. So in the drive, you're seeing the slipstream effect as that red Ford GT gets bigger and bigger in Miyazono's mirror. He's going to have to look to the outside here. No, he pulls inside now. Very late braking there, forces Mizuno to the outside, takes into the line, but Mizuno will cut back and get the position back a little bit too aggressive into there now, and again just managing to stop the car from spinning there. So much oversteer, they're really pushing these cars to the limit. Ryu's going to go inside of the kink. No, he's not. Ryu is rapidly running out of time here. This is a great drive by Mizuno on the hard compound.
You can see him sliding like a dog on a polished floor as he goes through that corner, trying to put the power down with these medium compound of tyres. They're a lot older, of course, than the hard compound shod Mizuno, who is in the lead of this race. Manoa there, definitely in the background, definitely lurking. Ryu is just trying to signal his intentions. He's taking tighter lines there, as you see, going through that left-hander, just trying to put his car in the right place, but it's down in towards this following right-hander where we're surely going to see the moves being made. He's a bit too far back from Mizuno, but he'll have the advantage of the slipstream. Does he go for a lunge? Yes, he does. Ryu down the inside for the race lead on the last lap. Past Mizuno, but there's contact. He spins it round as Ryu. It's all gone wrong. Oh, my goodness me. Avoiding action taking place further back. And Mizuno kept a calm head, kept it cool, and now he stands to take the victory in the All-Under-18s Japan Regional Final here.
Completely ruined that. He had all the time in the world to get that move made, but was just a little bit too impatient, and now it's going to be this man, Mizuno, on the hard compound tyre. I thought he was going to lose this race lead just like that, but excellent defending and excellent driving them from Mizuno. He's going to come across the line and win here in the Under-18s competition here at Tokyo in the Mega Web building. What a race there from the driver there. You see him in the bottom left-hand corner. He comes first, Minoru second, Sasaki in third, Nakamura fifth, Hashimoto in fifth, Ichi in sixth, and where is Ryu? All the way down in 7th place. What could have been?
Well, that is a huge drama. You can see the cars just coming over the timeline there. I think Kakuma was getting a little bit wide out of that that final corner. We saw it just in the background as the drivers came over the timing line, but that was hugely impressive. We're just hearing from our race direction in our ears that there is an incident under investigation at the moment. I wonder if that's because of the contact or whether it's because of what happened out on track.
I think it was that.
Keep an eye out, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a penalty there. I think that sorted itself out, to be honest. So
yeah, racing incident, I think, between the two drivers. Just a bit too greedy there from Ryu, and he was just trying to get on the power a bit too soon. It's kind of inevitable that something was going to kick off to the closing stage of that race, wasn't it?
Fun to watch, though. I wonder what Tsuchiya made of that. It's times like this I wish I spoke Japanese, Tom. I sit here and go, oh, man, they seem excited, but I'm not quite sure what they're saying.
No, we have got our Japanese translators in our ears at the moment, and hopefully we'll be able to get a few words from those guys in a few moments' time. Hopefully we'll be able to hear from our competitors up on stage here very shortly as well. But that was a very impressive race in the All Japan Under-18s Regional Championship. Great for the drivers here, great for the fans here as well, and hugely impressive. And as you said, Jimmy, we could end up commentating on some of these drivers in the near future. Down to T1, though, it was already starting to kick off as Nakamura challenged for the lead against Suzuki. Suzuki keeping a calm head, keeping the line and taking the lead away as Nakamura slopped down into P5. Then Hashimoto fancied a bite at the cherry. He drawed alongside Suzuki for the race lead. There was a bit of contact between them, a bit of argy-bargy, and Suzuki was shuffled off track and lost quite a lot of time there. Kind of put pace to his race, really.
Yeah, it was a bit shame for him. He could have been a competitor in this, but unfortunately just couldn't quite recover from that incident. Here was Hashimoto's penalty being served, and of course being forced, and Mizuno and Minoa was forced to split the two drivers. Minoa and Mizuno having some contact a bit earlier on. I've got to say, Mizuno at the front of the course was just so good at defending. I was really impressed at how he was placing his car, driving as a man well beyond his years. I have to give him that here. So here was Ryu. Now we thought this was a game, set, and match there. Soft compounder tyre was incredibly a lot faster, but just couldn't quite get by.
Yeah, you can see the contact they had there on the penultimate lap. This is down into the final lap. Same move being made there by Ryu, running it a little bit wide, switch back, and smart driving there from Mizuno, just keeping himself calm. He knew that Ryu had the opportunity to run wide. It was down into this right-hander where it all kicked off there. Ryu was just out of shape on the brakes. There was contact. He was already spinning round there, so no fault there of Mizuno. You can see Ryu there just a little bit disappointed with that one, and understandably so. But a great race there from Mizuno. As you said, Jimmy, maturity beyond his years in that one.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm fairly certain we'll see him in a couple of years' time in the GT World Tour events. So hopefully we'll anyway. If he's driving like that, it'll be a great competitor to go against the guys we have now. And just rounding off now and getting our podium ceremony ready and having a couple of pictures, of course, with the winner at the moment just to our left-hand side. And there are the final race results as confirmed by our stewards. Mizuno, of course, winning the race with Minoa second and Sasaki rounding off the podium in P3. Of course, Ryu, after that great performance, unfortunately, and that one mistake cost him all the way down 7th place. And Suzuki as well did lead the race at some point, down in 10th position.
Yeah, what could have been there for Suzuki, Kuma and Nankai there with that very unusual strategy. Did make up a little bit of time there, did Nankai towards the end of that one after making a couple of pit stops, but yeah, didn't really pay off for him, sadly, despite being on the faster compound of tyres. Great close racing, actually, in the field, given the fact that you'd expect to be perhaps a little bit more spread out over the course of that one. Relatively close in terms of their on-track performance, and that was really exciting to see. Some good battles up and down the grid as well, and to be a fly on the wall and speak Japanese in the conversation these guys are having at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I know Tsuchiya is a bit of a practical joker usually, so I'm sure he's talking at their expense a little bit. But
shaving foam in the shoe, that sort of thing, for Nakajima-san on the right.
I'm surprised he wasn't out there sticking a microphone in their face. That'd be more his style. But those guys were very focused, and again did very well here considering the crowd. Now I keep mentioning it, but every time I look around, I'm just reminded of how popular this show is here in Japan.
About ready then for the podium celebrations to get underway here in Tokyo for the All Japan's Under-18 regional race. So here is Sasaki from Tokyo. Let's hear what he has to say. We'll translate for you as soon as we can. So just saying that he didn't think he would make it to the top 3, and he's very proud that he finished in that position. All the other racers were great. And third place is because of the race position, and yeah, very impressive stuff. For the next race, I need to have more speed and do a great competition. Just wants to say thank you very much as well. Great race from there from Sasaki. Let's move over to our second place finisher. Finishing in second position. Says first of all that he's very happy with that result.
スタート直後の1コーナーで結構順位を上げることができたので、それが
So for the qualifier, was able to attack the first corner, and yeah, he lucked out finishing in P2. Very impressive stuff there for our second place finisher. But the winner, Mizuno, what does he have to say for himself? Koke Mizuno.
最後にリュウ選手をスピンさせてしまった
A
ので、
double winner, of course, having won the event last time.
なので本当に嬉しいです。
ただ
So yeah,
リュ
won
ウ
the last event. It was what he intended to win this event. A great race, though. A very close race. So just talking here about the medium tyre compound that he was driving. I say that he was out to beat him, and all the other drivers out on track. So a two-time winner then of Mizuno, Koke Mizuno. Hugely impressive performance there from him. Just kept his calm, kept his head when he needed to. Our top three finishers in the All Japan Under-18 regional race then, making their way on to the podium. And our host down there is just going to introduce the drivers, firstly in Japanese.
Let's begin with the prize-giving ceremony for the Under-18 Inter-Prefecture Japan Championship. Third position from Tokyo, Yuito Sasaki.
Yuichi Sasaki making his way onto the podium in third place. Very impressive stuff for the driver from Tokyo. So a short commute here.
Tatsuyami Noah.
第2位は茨城県代表
And our second place finisher of Tatsuya Minowa. Nice drive there from Minowa.
And the winner is from Aichi, Koki Mizuno. Congratulations.
Koke Mizuno, a double winner in the All Japan Under-18 Regional Championship here in Tokyo from Aichi. And that is absolutely mega for him. And a lot of stiff competition at the very end of that one. If it wasn't for Ryu making that mistake, it could have been a very different result for all of these drivers. But as it was, Mizuno, as we mentioned, kept his calm, kept his head, kept his cool, kept it facing the right way, and claimed the checkered flag. The prizes then being presented to our winner, Koke Mizuno. The winner, but our third place finisher being presented there first of all. Nicely done from all of these drivers.
プレゼンターはグランツーリスモシリーズプロデューサー
And our second place finisher being presented now. Kazunori Yamauchi presenting the second place trophy there. Nice one, Kaz. You can see he's beaming with pride. Big old smile down there on the floor, as are all of our competitors here as well. And Koke Mizuno, our winner for the All Japan Under-18 Regional Championship. His trophy about to be presented here in Tokyo as well. Lovely stuff from all of our drivers. Huge congratulations to Koke Mizuno, finishing on the top step of the podium. That was very impressive from all of our drivers.
日本一に輝いたのは愛知代表水野幸喜選手でした。
Great for them to be doing so well, and oh, they can't go and have a drink after this one, but I'm sure they can celebrate a little.
I'll do it for them.
So the celebrations go on here in Japan, in Tokyo, for the All Japan Under-18 Regional Championship. Big round of applause from our crowd here as well. Good few hundred people watching on. Mega to see such great interest in what could potentially be the future of esports drivers here. And who knows, maybe in a year or two, we'll see these guys in the Gran Turismo World Tour events. So we'll leave you then with some highlights of the All Japan Under-18 Regional Championship. Well, Jimmy, just closing thoughts from yourself on this one.
Great to see such skill, I guess, from these guys. So young and showing out there on track just how talented they all are. And as you said, Tom, I'm very much looking forward to seeing if these guys make it up to the nations and manufacturers in the coming years.
Great performances. Huge congratulations to Koke Mizuno taking the eventual victory. looking forward to seeing how these guys progress in the future. Don't forget, of course, we've got the manufacturer exhibition race coming up here in Tokyo in the next hour or so. Tune in for that because it's going to be pretty frantic, I can tell you that for one thing. In the meantime, we've got Nations Cup, of course, coming up later on here this afternoon for World Tour 5 of the 2019 FIA Gran Turismo Championships. But from Jimmy Broadbent and from myself, Tom Brooks, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you later on today for more racing action in Tokyo.